to YouTube. So there we go. Again, as always, these webinars will be posted on YouTube right after they are completed, and we'll be sending emails out afterward to potentially try to connect one-on-one with your teams if needed, dive a little deeper into anything. But as always, this is an open board Q&A. So as we present things, ask your questions. We have a Q&A button down there. You can also ask them in chat. Q&A is a little bit easier. Again, we're here to assist, answer these questions, and any of the ones that might be relevant to the whole group, I'll mention out loud so we can kind of walk through those together. So yeah, absolutely looking forward to getting started here. It is a minute or two after 2 p.m. Eastern, so we'll go ahead and get started. Everybody, my name is Yit. I'm the CEO here at CLEATUS, based here out of our headquarters in Arlington, Virginia, joined here by my team members Mitat and Lewis. And we'll be walking through our bi-weekly webinar where, as usual, we'll start with the first half, primarily geared towards newer clients, newer prospective people to find out more about what it is we do here at CLEATUS, how we help our customers, but then dive a little bit into the platform itself, talk about some new features. Some of this stuff might be new even if you are an existing user. So we have tons and tons of updates pretty much every day at this point. And so we always want to highlight these new features and make sure that everybody who's interested in the platform as well as currently on it is growing. So again, if you have suggestions, if you want to just share, if you're an existing customer, something cool that you do with Cletus that might be an interesting idea. Remember, this is also a community, so we're always open to new ideas. But I'll go ahead and start the presentation here. I do see we have a few others joining, so we'll take it a little slow at first so that anybody joining a few minutes late is not missing too much important information. Mita, could you confirm if my screen is coming across clearly?
Yes, I can see your screen. I'm going to turn off my camera too.
Mhm. No worries, no worries.
There we go.
Alrighty, everybody. Let's get this kicked off. Again, we are Cleatus. We're AI for government contractors. A good way to describe us is we're an AI platform that finds, bids, and wins government contracts for you. Today, we're going to give you a brief description of how it is we do that for existing current customers as well as future prospective clients. That how it is we produce these outcomes for our customers. Ultimately, to give you a little bit of a brief overview onto about us is we're an all-in-one platform for everything you and your team might need in government contracting. For winning federal work or state and local work, our goal is to help you with just about any part of this process from discovery, qualification, go, no go, pricing. There's a long list all the way up until proposal and award. Ultimately, we're a system to build systems on. And again, through the help of our team as well as our platform, we've helped a little over 650 government contractors who are currently using the platform today. And in 2025 alone, they've actually won a little over $1 billion in contracts. So clearly the results are showing, and the community is growing. So we're headquartered here in Arlington, Virginia, right outside the nation's capital. But we are, of course, serving contractors nationwide, as well as some in Canada and some other bordering countries as well. So helping a broad group of customers. We're very agnostic, not just to your industry, but also to your size, whether you're a large, multi-hundred person, multi-thousand person org or a smaller solo operation or anything in between. We assist. We have plans for everybody, so we can absolutely help with essentially scaling your solution to the size that you need it to be. What we produce for our clients is outcomes. These outcomes typically are going to allow you to win more contracts, win them faster, but maintain your headcount and your team for cost efficiency purposes. Really, the main outcome that we're driving in order to do this is going to be productivity increases for your team members. The number of team members you have using the platform is going to directly increase how valuable the platform is to you. Typically, what we see cited often is a 4 to 6x multiple on your team members using the platform. We're able to do this because we're saving a massive amount on the essential grunt work that's required to do a government contract or to solicit or to respond to a solicitation and ultimately win work. A lot of this grunt work is the way we automate it is going to be through AI agents. And today we're going to show lots of examples of this. And ultimately, again, this kind of stretches from that capture to award process and typically very big time savings. Ultimately, what this is going to lead to is an increased win rate if your team is already winning contracts and a much quicker kind of go to market winning your first award if you are new. This is kind of our approach. And we have some user stories which are available on our website of some exemplary companies who have not only utilized the tool to a very high extent, who have seen really big results by doing so. What we like to do is frame what you're currently doing to understand how we can best help. Our process is quite consultative, so we're going to understand how you do these processes, and we're going to learn how to automate them for you. This is like a bespoke custom process. Whatever your team's current process is that, if it's a bottleneck, if it's a challenge, those are the problems we want to solve. We like to start with, of course, finding opportunities. And I'll ask these kind of as rhetorical questions so that you can think yourselves on how is it that we currently source new opportunities, right? Are our teams spending 10, 20 hours a week searching through sites for opportunities? How are we qualifying them, right? Deciding if we're going to bid on them or not. These are really good questions to ask yourself because they can frame how we can actually automate this process and what the value of the platform can be for you. Another really important one is pipeline visibility, right? How do we track the opportunities we are pursuing? It's easy when it's just one at a time, but if you're going after 10 or 20 or 30 and there's a mix of new opportunities and task orders, well, how are we managing all of this? Is there a single source of truth, a unified pipeline that our whole team is working with? If the answer is no, and it's something like Excel, we've obviously got a solution for you there. Then there's proposals, typically the longest single time sync when putting together a response or in this process. Again, understanding how are we approaching the process of creating proposals? How are we reviewing them for compliance? How are we checking them, running red team reviews? How are we even storing the knowledge base needed in order to build out these proposals? These are really great questions to ask yourself as you think, how can we further automate this process and ultimately improve it, turn it into a system, not just to win a contract once or every single time it comes around, but to turn it into a machine that wins contracts for you. That's really what we specialize in. And again, this process is unique to you. We don't want to change that. We want to automate it. And that's really what our team does. When it comes to market intel, this is a great question to ask because I see it's oftentimes overlooked in the industry because it's kind of a pain to get, right? Market intelligence in this industry can be difficult to find, and platforms that do offer it, it's still a manual process. Having the data is one thing, but being able to actually utilize it in processes and workflows is a completely other thing. So that's a big element of what we do. We will show some examples of this specifically today as well. But really, to frame all of this, what we're really doing is, again, acting as a force multiplier to your capture and BD teams. We want it to work in the background, automating the grunt work so that your team members are focusing their valuable human hours on the most important things that AI shouldn't be doing and can't do. What is your strategy, top line? What are improving your relationships, as well as ultimately making the decisions required to win a contract? So by automating the grunt work, that's what your team is going to be able to solely focus their efforts on. We'll start this process and discussion off in Capture. This is basically the first part of the process that we'll typically automate for you. Daily matches, right? They're completely tailored to your business. Our capture agents basically act like a capture manager that doesn't ever sleep. Our process to capture is also very unique in the sense that we learn a lot about your company before we start to essentially recommend opportunities for you. Through our onboarding process, that either could be assisted by one of our team members or self-served, you're going to be teaching CLEATUS a lot of what your company does down to a capability level, not just like a keyword and a NACE code here and there. Really understanding what your business does and doesn't do, understanding everything from your existing vehicles and past performances to your certifications and set-asides. These are all givens. These are required things for CLEATUS to know so that it's matching you with the right opportunities. But we actually take it a step further and understand your preferences. These are unique to you. You might have a certain size of contract you're after, or you may have certain things you want to avoid in the contracts themselves, like requirements or scopes of work. There is literally an infinite number of variables here, and we have the ability to capture and work around all of them so that your capture is extremely fine-tuned and perfected for what you're looking for. We do this then across a database with over 30,000 different sources of opportunities, just about everything at this point, everything from the federal level through SAM, GSA, as well as a couple other integrations for vehicle-based platforms. DIBS, of course, state, local, education, K through 12, counties, cities. We also do SIBRs, sitters, grants. We even do agency forecasts. So we create signals to help understand when work is going to come out well before it comes out. We also do signals for subcontracting opportunities as well as teaming databases full of teaming information. So all that data is basically what CLEATUS is going to be searching through to match your business with the right opportunities for it. On the top right here, we can take a moment to look at what a recommendation will typically look like. Very easy to understand. The RFP here that's brought to this company has been reviewed. with pros, cons, and a score to help you make a quick look at this and then immediately determine if it's going to be the right fit. So again, there's a multitude of different variables that can go into how you want Cleatus to find opportunities for you. But the key thing is we can handle them all. Now, managing your pipeline is kind of another discussion in itself. Taking these opportunities, adding them to your pipeline, and having an organized space for your entire team to work kind of goes beyond just a CRM, right? The record that we're working on here is the contract, and everything associated with that contract is going to be under this record. That could be the proposal, that could be like the team members assigned to it, as well as the actual tasks that you have to complete in order to do this proposal. So we do also have kind of project management tools to help your team track their progress, make sure everyone's staying aligned and on track. But of course, these are live records, right? There could be amendments, there could be updates. All that stuff is gathered and understood here in the pipeline level, but most importantly, customizable. So you'll be able to tailor this thing to look exactly the way you want it to look, whether your pipeline needs to look a certain way with the steps in it, or if you need certain views for certain business units or team members, you're able to capture all of that here. So it's quite flexible. And one cool thing about the CRM is it's also connected to a lot of other things like workflows and automation. So this starts off as, something that we're managing, but ultimately it could be something that the AI is also managing for us as well. And we'll give some examples of this throughout. The proposal writer is definitely a call in itself. This is a conversation to have. But our proposal writer is a fully agentic proposal writer, meaning it doesn't just toaster out a proposal response. It actually plans, writes, and then builds a bid package with all of the potential needs of this specific solicitation. So it's completely dynamic every single time. It reads the full solicitation, does a complete compliance breakdown, shredding all requirements down to where they are in the solicitation. So it's sourced, so you can see the source, mapping it to section L&M requirements. But then it even then plans ahead as essentially where it's going to address those. So it's a very methodical process, but it's just one long automation. It takes anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. And the proposal writer will not only plan it's essentially approach of attack towards responding, it'll do that dynamically. So if it's an RFP or like an RFI or an RFQ, sources sought, it's going to have a different process, a different plan. That's why we can respond to federal, SLED, as well as even sometimes private contract responses because the process itself is dynamic. CLEATUS is going to be building these artifacts in a sandbox for you. Evaluation factors, gap analyses, outlines, requirements, win strategies. It's going to build the tool, like the artifacts required to respond to your process, and then it's going to go ahead and draft them. It's going to draft the sections or volumes that this proposal is calling for because it knows now what is required to actually execute. As it does that, it's going to pull information in from your knowledge base, right? Prior proposals, staffing information, technical white papers, the artifacts that you own are then going to make their way into the proposal response so that we're kind of in one fail swoop making up solicitations first draft compliant as well as tailored to your business. So outputs are not generic. And another really cool thing that we've harnessed our proposal writer not to do is to hallucinate. There might be certain things that your knowledge base is missing or certain things that your team needs to actually decide. The agent is going to purposefully skip certain sections if it's missing the right information, if it's not confident about a particular response, and it's going to notify them to you. Now, that's all how we get to that first draft. But what we do from here is actually the fun part, right? You can see here on the right in this screenshot, this agent has actually kind of recommended some next steps. And our way of executing these next steps, whether they are edit passes, red team reviews, or we need to provide some additional information to continue drafting, all of that is done agentically. Just simply tell your agent what you want done. It's going to go ahead and do them. That could require spinning up a new doc. That could require going through your company's knowledge base to find certain information. There's a lot of examples of what kinds of workflows can be run at this point, but all of them lead ultimately to servicing one goal. That's meeting those compliance requirements, completing the response. And now we have features like form filling and more to help build more of your package in this one place. Cool thing about any of those edits that you make, when you make an edit, CLEATUS is going to know you made it. So that compliance matrix is going to update as well. So it's all live, it's all in one place, and it's again fully agentic. As we continue to go towards talking about additional elements of our market and searchable, basically making our entire market of government contracting searchable. This was a huge endeavor that we did to basically organize the tens of millions of different records in this industry into something that's useful for you. We do this for a lot of different buckets of information, ranging from awards to vehicle intelligence, agencies, competitors, even contracting officers. All this data is collected, organized, but most importantly, we put an agent on top of it to make it usable. You can tell your agents to produce a list of competitors that, that might be up against you in a certain opportunity, and then source to why it thinks that, performing like a black hat analysis. You can tell Cletus to then find contracting officers that might be relevant to you that you should build a relationship with. These are examples of how you leverage the data. And typically, these kinds of research studies are either just not going to be done or are going to be very difficult to do manually. So, again, your agent is able to interact with this massive amount of data all in one place. The agent itself is something to talk about as well. Ultimately, the agent kind of acts as an extension of your team or like an assistant for every single one of your team members, but it's completely personalized to your org. By building out your knowledge base and your capture profile, just naturally through the onboarding process, you're actually customizing this agent because it knows everything that's in there. It knows what your profile is, it knows your business, and it has it as context available to it at all times. So when I ask it a question like, who are the competitors on this contract? What is my positioning against them? CLEATUS is going to be able to answer that because it knows the information necessary to do it. This agent is extremely powerful and versatile, and so it can not only create lots of different types of artifacts like Excel sheets, PDFs, Word docs, whatever. It's able to generate and build the content that you need it to, but it can also execute your methodologies. So if you have a certain red team review process, well, let's tell the agent to run it that way. It's not going to run just a canned process or a simple example process, right? It's going to follow your steps and it's going to execute them for you. Now, agents are great, but agent orchestration is even better, right? So custom agents, being able to orchestrate agents in an environment that's triggered autonomously or on a schedule. This is where you get the most value out of agents. And our platform allows you to not only build these agents, but actually orchestrate them all in one place. We've now seen teams who have 20, 30 different agents all running at the same time, representing their entire BD department. I've seen companies make agents for themselves, just like a person. Like I would have a Git agent that does my job for me, and I just review its outputs. These are the kinds of things your team members can do with agents that operate autonomously because they plan, reason, and then execute your multi-step, like complex workflows, but they use your data while doing it and follow your methodologies. We have some really great examples of agents, and we've seen some incredible requests from clients saying, "Hey, can you build me an agent that does blank?" The answer is almost always yes. And we're always happy to build out agents for our clients as well. On the middle right here, there's kind of an example of like how an agent would be represented in these flow diagrams. So it can be simple to configure, but really deep in how much functionality these agents can do. They can actually perform actions within the platform as well. We'll give some examples of these in kind of the second half of the presentation. A few examples that we do have that we see often are things like pricing agents, right? Breaking down contract scopes of work or using historical data in the platform to like automatically produce pricing outputs in a certain format. Capture manager agents that are able to like disseminate if an opportunity is a go or a no go, and then even like assign them to the right people and kind of act as a guard for your capture team. Teaming agents that are going to research and find teaming partners or identify gaps that you might, suggest a teaming partner for. These are great examples of agents. And of course, any of the proposal related agents like red team reviewing or just ultimately like perfecting your proposals over time are all things that our agents are going to be capable of doing. Ultimately, the most important thing here is also integrating this with your existing tool stack. We don't ask you to rip and replace anything. Whether it's your existing CRM, your team communication channels, document storage, emails, calendar, as well as other AI assistants such as Claude or ChatGPT products, you're able to integrate CLEATUS directly into many of these different platforms, as well as vehicle credentialed platforms. So GSA eBuy, Pi, Seaport, these are platforms that need credentials to get those task orders and delivery orders out of if you're in a vehicle. We're able to integrate with those platforms as well, just on a one-to-one basis, so that your team can essentially manage their task orders and deliverables as well. And the cool thing is workflows can also integrate with a lot of these different integrations. So if you want, say, an email generated every time blank happens, or you want your team to be communicated once certain actions are completed within the platform. These are all great examples of workflows that we can orchestrate on our platform. Couple things that are also really important are, of course, data privacy. So your data stays yours within the platform, whether that be your competitive intelligence, whether that be your confidential information, or your methodologies. These ultimately stay within the platform, isolated to your environment, so that your competitors are not gaining access to any of your key information or your processes. So our models are never training on any of your data, whether that's the inputs or the outputs, and you're ultimately retaining full ownership over your data at all times. Everything is also encrypted in transit and rest on US architecture, and we do have options for companies who need to meet certain compliance frameworks, such as FedRAMP or CMMC. So pretty much an option for everybody when it comes to your specific industry as well as your compliance posturing. I know that was a lot, but I did want to take a quick break here to see if anybody had any questions, and then before we started diving into the platform itself, leave some time for some quick Q&A. I do see we have a hand up from Charles. If you don't mind quickly throwing your message into the Q&A chat, should be on the bottom right of your screen. Okay, great question here from William. He's asking what the benefits are of integration. So there's really a lot of different benefits, and it will relate to the integration itself. There's obviously the ability to not have to maintain multiple pipelines if you're using an existing CRM like Salesforce or HubSpot. So integrating directly into that will make it so that you're not having to like rip and replace your source of record. That's just one example. But of course, things like team communication channels, agents, these are really great examples of when you can basically enrich like your ChatGPT with all of our market intelligence, for example. So there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage these. And a lot of times, if you have a certain integration in mind or a certain task that requires an integration, we can kind of help consult you into like what the best way, what the best integration might be. I do see a couple questions here that might relate to a couple questions we have from some new government contractors. I see that there is some questions around if CLEATUS can support if you're new in the industry. Absolutely. Actually, being new to the industry and not having past performances is important for CLEATUS to know, because if there's certain opportunities that have past performance requirements, we're obviously going to want to avoid those. Not having past performances doesn't mean you can't win contracts. It just means you can't win all the different kinds of contracts out there. So CLEATUS will learn this process just naturally through the onboarding process that we have. And then, of course, recommend to you the opportunities that make the most sense. We've certainly helped tons of companies win their first contracts. And in terms of cost timeline to integrate, we can be quite quick. We typically will jump on a one-on-one call with you and your team to understand exactly what your goals are in the short term and set up a trial or a POV to help address them, understanding and fitting within your budgets, of course. And we do have multiple different pricing options for clients to make sure we're fitting in your budget. Do have a question here from Jasmine asking if we contract with the United Nations. We are not contractors. We don't contract with the United Nations ourselves. But we do have, of course, options as well as sources connected to contracts from that specific source. Great question from Charles here about if we only focus on proposal writing and if the templates are customizable. This is like a two-part question. First part, no, we do a little bit of everything from capture, opportunity sourcing, managing of the tasks, as well as agents that can perform just about any process. We don't just do proposal writing, but when it comes to our proposals, there actually are no templates. We don't templatize proposals. We don't standardize the process of building proposals because we approach them dynamically. The agents are good enough now to understand what is required of this opportunity and then produce the outputs that's required. Now, if your company has templates and you want it to like adhere to a certain tone of voice, or you have like prior examples of wins that might include some technical or staffing data that's useful in another proposal. That information is absolutely brought in, but our platform has gone much, much further than using templates and things like that. It's fully dynamic. There is no template. It's like an auto win template for proposal writing, unfortunately. But that's okay because our system is so easy to use. It does feel that way. And these are great questions. Keep them coming. Alrighty. Looks like we're all out of questions right now. That's totally fine. We'll skip into the next part of the presentation here. We're going to show you the platform itself a little bit. We're going to focus, of course, onto a couple specific elements, not to dive too far across the entire platform. I really want to dive deep today rather than go wide. We've made a lot of improvements on the market intel side, so I want to highlight what kinds of market data there are available in the platform and give you some ideas on different ways that we can actually utilize that data, right? On the left here, you see we have the Market Intel tab opened up, and there's a few buckets of information, right? Agencies, contracting officers, contractors, and then award information on vehicles, contracts, and grants. And we're going to just show you what some of this looks like so that you can see what kind of data CLEATUS can essentially cook with when when using workflows and kind of give you some examples of that as well. On the market intelligence side, we're going to display things for agencies, highlighting what obligations that they've currently had. So you have full visibility into the opportunities that are available down to the agency as well as sub-agency level. You're going to see essentially who are the top ranked contractors in these specific agencies, right? Who's winning all the contracts, as well as, of course, see those here listed as well. So all the data is tied together. It's not independent or floating around within the system. You're able to navigate very easily between opportunity for example, award to its contract and then from its contract to its agency. We also do this for contracting officers. This is extremely important when building your positioning and trying to understand, for example, what contracting officers you need to build a relationship with. The contracting officers will come with additional information such as contact information, of course, the specific contracts that they're currently soliciting, as well as who they've awarded, so what contractors they're awarding. This is really important because if, for example, you're an aircraft parts and auxiliary equipment manufacturer, this is a person you might want to build a relationship with. And of course, understanding that, kind of going a level deeper, searching through all this, it doesn't have to be done manually. You can actually ask CLEATUS, hey, who are the contracting officers I should build relationships with and why, right? And it can use this data to answer that question, producing an Excel sheet with contact information on leads for, if you're a construction company, the contractors in your officers in your area that are soliciting these types of contracts. So very, very valuable data to help really with your BD and capture side. Now, as far as competitors and potential teaming partners go, we also do this for every single contractor. So both Fed and SLED level, you're going to be able to see contractors and their history. So their awards, what they've won in the past, what vehicles they currently hold, for example. You'll even be able to see their list of teaming partners, their prime contracts, as well as, well, in this case, there's no subcontracts, but you would be able to see their subcontracts as well. And so this information is incredibly important, but it's not just for competitors, it's also for potential teaming partners. Because if you're vetting a teaming partner or you're just trying to research and find who might be able to fill a gap that you have in your capabilities, you can do that at the contract side. And so there's definitely really a myriad of different uses for this data and this information. And having this all at CLEATUS's fingertips allows it to basically include this data in the workflows that you're running. We also want to highlight contracting vehicles. You can see we've got all the vehicles here, and we've opened up Alliant 2 GWAC as an example here. So this is a really great example of how much information we collect on things like awards and vehicles themselves. If you're interested in subbing for one of the primes in this vehicle or potentially on-ramping into the vehicle itself, understanding who is currently in it, what period it's been performed, what amount has been obligated, all this information is going to be available to you on the vehicle level as well, down to the task order. So you can see exactly what task orders and then even the sub awards for those task orders. So you can see I went from the vehicle into the task order, and now I can see things like its history, as well as even subcontractors on this task order. So this is a lot of data that you're seeing. But again, It's not just data that you can search through manually. The agent knows all this data as well. So again, you're seeing the awardees, you're seeing the subcontractors as well. You're seeing a lot of information on these specific vehicles. We do also do this for the contracts themselves. So you'll see again at the contract award level, a lot of information. Everything is tied back from who won it to how much to the awarding agency. And this data can be leveraged in a number of different ways. If you're, for example, trying to figure out pricing on a contract and you want to base your pricing in historical data, we've got all that historical data. That's now your methodology. The CLEATUS agent can approach pricing the way you want it to. And this is typically a very good best practices way of approaching it. I see a really great question from Charles here. Asking about vetting companies and possible teaming partners. I definitely want to elaborate on this. This definitely relates to a lot of general contracting firms or AEC firms who are interested in working with subcontractors, but really, again, any industry. So I'll go back to our contract government contractors page. By organizing the award history of a contractor, as well as their existing subawards, when you're vetting a contractor, the main or a teaming partner, sorry, the main thing that you're typically going to be vetting them against is what have they done, right? What are their past performances? So there's a couple different things we can do. We can be on a contract in Cletus and ask it, hey, look at my capabilities and see what gaps there are that I might need a subcontractor or a teaming partner in. Cletus can do that. It has the context, the solicitation, and your capabilities, so it can answer that question. Then you can say, okay, great. Find me recommend teaming partners for that scope in this area, and Cletus can perform that search for you, going into this knowledge base to pull that information out, so that it's not guessing. It's actually basing its answer on real data that it finds within our database. So it's a really good example of like even a canned workflow that you could automate with Cletus. That would just be a couple questions. And we can even create a workflow around that that automatically runs and like sends your team an email once the teaming report is done. Like that's the next step of taking an opportunity like this from like a point solution to a true automation. Another good question here from William, asking if there's any way that our software can review essentially your positioning to outsiders. I imagine that means potential buyers and improve forward-facing image. So this is definitely possible. There's a few ways that you can do this. I'm going to kind of veer off the beaten path here and go into a capture profile for this firm. So your capture profile is represented to Cletus like this, but this is actually very closely aligned to like what your cap statement would also say on it. There are ways to like upload your cap statement that'll just do most of your onboarding for you. But essentially, by connecting to things like your UEI code, we'll understand all your past performances, your certifications, your set-asides, what contracts you're going after, but most importantly, your capabilities. These capabilities are quite descriptive, right? The more descriptive you are, the better. If you just write government contracts in here, it's not going to find very relevant contracts for you. So understanding what your company does and wants to do, how it's going to position itself with differentiators, this is really important stuff. As you build this out, now the agent has context over this. So we could ask Cletus how it views our potential positioning, outward facing as well. Again, your experience is going to play a role in this as well. So your company's past performances, if it has any, will play a big role in this. And if you're on a contract and, for example, you don't have past performances or they're not relevant, you might need to get creative with how you position yourself and justify why you're a good bidder. And well, the agent's going to be very good at that, doing just that. So that would be a fantastic question for Cletus. So I'll go ahead and close some of these tabs as we talk about a few other things. So I was on my pipeline today and I wanted to share my experience with writing this proposal for a grant. Want to highlight that grant responses and cyber sitter responses are totally viable within the platform as well, not just normal contracts. This contract was in my company's pipeline here. And what I did was I opened the contract up here. You can see here, because this is a grant view, you'll see a few additional elements under this kind of grants Moodle that will describe a few more things than a typical contract would. And what we started doing was we drafted the proposal. So I'm going to open up that first couple drafts for this proposal that came out, and I want to show you, just give you kind of some time to look through what this ultimately looks like. So to kind of talk about slowly what we've seen here, I want to also show you the history of my chat. So you can see what I did to get to this point on this contract or on this response. So the first automation ran when I triggered it here. What that did was it actually started reading all of the solicitation documents available for this opportunity. And you can see that it started to think and build specific proposal artifacts. So it started planning. You can see in the planning folder. The first thing it did was, of course, a compliance matrix. This matrix included the requirements, the source of the requirement, as well as the proposal section that would be addressed in, and the status of if it was completed or not. That's not how they have to be. That's how I wanted my compliance matrix to be. This is completely customizable, of course. But what you'll see is that the agent continued to think and build additional planning in its phase one of planning, additional files. It built eval factors. Oops, gotta refresh this. Give us one moment here while I refresh this. There we go. Okay, so sorry about that. It created other planning files in this response package that it used after reading the solicitation files for it to understand how it's going to approach this, right? Evaluation factors for what are the most important when a contracting officer is evaluating your solicitation response. It then built a gap analysis to understand where are the potential gaps, right? In this case, there was a fairly big gap. And so it highlighted that to me early on, and it started strategizing how it was going to approach meeting or filling that gap. It also created a proposal outline. So I knew exactly what files as well as what kind of requirements around packaging were needed for this proposal. It then created a requirements document, which is basically every potential requirement ID'd and described, as well as sourced back to where they're supposed to be or where they are in the solicitation. Finally, it planned a win theme. So it built out my win strategy, highlighting all of my win themes. And again, this is encompassing everything in my company's profile, including in this case, it was leveraging mostly my past performances. And so this is a great kind of example of a planning approach that CLEATUS took to this grant response. And it's dynamic, right? If this was the sources sought, it's not going to build all this compliance matrix stuff because it doesn't need to. It's just a simple response. It's dynamic in the sense that it knows what it's responding to and it knows what's required because those instructions are in the solicitation. And so it's following that process. It's not just in out machine, right? It's genuinely building this from the bottom up. And you see this is like a 10 to 20 minute process. You see it as it's building all of this. You can literally see the files popping up here. And what it did after that was we'll see, we'll keep following our chat. What it did after this was it started to write phase two, right? Executing the plan. It basically started building out my proposal. It started with the project narrative, meeting all the requirements that it had figured out it needed. And then it started also building out my past performances and qualifications. So it created two files here. It was nice, and it also created me a quick submission readiness checklist to help me kind of with the submission process. So these are processes that it did. And once it was done, it stopped and it said, hey, I skipped certain sections. Why? There was a couple forms that I did not have in the solicitation package. And it basically suggested to provide them to it to continue to write those. And so I asked it, okay, what's that checklist? Can you produce one? A checklist of all the required forms. And then it did, highlighted all the specific forms that I would need to fill out. There was quite a few. And then it also highlighted again how to submit this proposal. See here, there's that checklist. It actually created this file when I asked it to do that as well, highlighting all the required forms that were needed to be signed. And what I did was I asked it first, like, do you have those SFs? And it was like, no, I don't. They're not in the package. And so I just, found them online in this case. A lot of times they will be in the solicitation package, but some standard ones won't be. So I just Googled them, found them, and then dropped them in here. We can see one is even just a W-9. So standard forms. I dropped them all in via chat just by simply uploading the documents here. And then I told CLEATUS, hey, can we get some help filling these out? And so CLEATUS did just that. It uploaded the files into our form filler. You'll see if you've ever used anything like DocuSign before, it's very easy to fill. And it started building them out, highlighting like what areas need to be filled. You can see here on the W-9. And I'd go in and of course get these completed, signed, and filled out. You can see that the proposal package is now building. I'm meeting more of the compliance requirements. As I do all this, the items in here, like this one, you can see these forms that used when I first drafted my proposal, these were gaps. It then started highlighting, hey, these are completed now. And I didn't actually fill out the forms, and it recognized that and said partially completed. So very, very much helping you understand what you need to complete. Again, all of this is just automatically happening in one place. Then I can say, okay, I told it to say I filled out the forms, but I didn't, obviously. And that's where we are currently with this proposal. Now, what we could have also done is now we've gotten to a point where we're fairly, complete with this. I can tell Cletus to start reviewing this solicitation. I'm going to tell it to create a new folder, and let's call it review. Then I want it to run a red team review, put the results and corrective recommendations in that folder. So this is a great example of now we're telling Cletus after this first draft to run a process, right? I didn't elaborate exactly how I wanted it to run my red team review, so it's probably going to make some assumptions and use best practices. However, if I had a specific red team review process, we could even save that prompt so your team can just trigger it very, very simply, very automatically. So the idea here is, again, we're running a process. Cletus is now going to produce a new artifact for my team, which is the analysis of our red team review. So we'll let it go. It's going to review the whole package, right? Understand everything that's currently in here. What have we done? What have we missed? And it's going to produce a red team report for us. And again, I have complete control over how I organize this package. I told it to create a new folder. I could have just as easily said, hey, put that in the planning folder, for example. So you have full control over what is being generated in this sandbox and why. So we'll see here in a moment once it finishes. And this is a great example of a powerful workflow that could take your team hours or days to complete. But once we explain your red team review methodology, well, Cletus is not just going to tell you how to do it; it's going to actually execute it and then produce the results. And I'll show you what we do from here too, because we're not just done here. A good edit pass is great when it has a red team review analysis to work off of. And so we're going to show how we can actually leverage that red team review now to perform like the next step, which would typically happen, which would be kind of an edit pass. And so as it's building this document out, it's going to, of course, update our workspace. I do want to highlight a few things here that we do. You'll notice that there are these kind of numbers highlighting green and red. These are going to map directly to things that have been added and removed from your response. So as you build out your response, you're going to see, for example, on a large edit pass that multiple files might have been edited. Understanding what was edited, maintaining that transparency and clear traceability of all of these edits that your agents are doing is really important because we don't want to be unaware of any edits we're making. Your team maintaining that traceability is extremely important, and you're going to see exactly what was added and what was removed in any of the processes that you did. When I was telling it to create checklists for an update once I filled out forms, these were the things it was doing. So I'm able to actually go in here and see exactly what was edited and changed. And if I want to, for example, I can reject or even keep those edits. There's an easy way to just blanketly keep all of them if you just hit this. And so you'll see these will go away. That actually saves a new version as well. And so you'll be able to see the version control and history up here so that your team knows who's going in here and changing what, and that the process is traceable. And of course, if there's a mistake that you can go back and revert. We'll see that our agent just wrapped up its red team review. And we'll see here that it's created two files under a new folder called review. And this is where I'll put all my review stuff as I'm doing this. I see here that there is a red team review response here built where Cletus actually looked through all of this potential strengths, weaknesses. I could have told it to do like a SWOT analysis, for example. And it's going to highlight exactly like section by section our strengths, weaknesses, significant weaknesses, and deficiencies. And you'll see that it's also suggesting corrective actions like I asked. See, there's a few here. And of course, it's going to highlight things like our top deficiencies. So helping me prioritize what my next steps are. And I asked it to produce this for me, just like a list of corrective recommendations. And what we can actually tell it to do now is go ahead and make the recommended. This is going to be a big one probably because there's quite a few corrective actions in this. Well, actually, not too many, but there'll be a good amount. And so CLEATUS is going to now make all the edits here that were suggested as corrective actions. And then we're going to see again, all of these are going to map back to your compliance matrix. And as CLEATUS gets closer and closer to completing this proposal, we're going to now take another look at our compliance matrix because since we've started this call and the very short amount of work that we've done so far, we'll see that we've met quite a few more of these compliance requirements, pushing this thing a lot closer to a submission. We'll see here soon, we're going to start seeing edits popping up as CLEATUS goes through and one by one essentially fills out these corrective actions that were recommended. Again, there's obviously elements that might require additional documentation. For example, a really common one will be if you, for example, don't have information in your document hub about like your past performances or your key personnel. Well, CLEATUS isn't going to know what to put in the key personnel section, right? So, but if we had just uploaded all of our company's key personnel resumes or staffing info into that folder, then CLEATUS will have that all upon first draft. The document hub is crucial for tailoring your proposals. As your knowledge base grows and as your team is uploading things like prior proposals or other kind of technical information and staffing information into the proposal writer and document hub, all of that is going to be included in here automatically. Our system knows to look through the document hub and use progressive discovery in order to find the documents that are relevant and pull the source information from them. So these outputs that I'm generating are always going to be grounded in your actual data. You can, of course, even prompt this. If you tell CLEATUS, hey, I want you to take John Smith from, and make him our program lead, and CLEATUS will find John Smith's resume and then do that. And that's kind of the idea of how we're playing around with the data that our business owns. And we're basically using it to create new things, new artifacts, which in this case are responses to a proposal or an RFQ. So we'll see here, CLEATUS is just going ahead and banging out all these edits that were requested from the red team review, and you can see we've made quite a few already. These are examples of what some of these replace style edits would look like. We can see a few were made here. And again, we're able to go in and say, keep or remove. And one thing that it highlighted was that it wanted to improve how we addressed like the relevancy of our past performances to this opportunity. So it's a pretty good piece of feedback. CLEATUS is, of course, as it does this, highlighting your compliance matrix. You can see here that some of those edits were made and that the framework around the narrative support was actually improved. See, now our edit pass is done. And if we're happy now, we could then say push this proposal on into like a gold team status. So I hope that this gives kind of a good idea, a brief intro into what using our proposal writer looks and feels like. If you'll notice, just simply prompting it and telling it what to do. If you're ever unsure of what to do, that's a great time to ask CLEATUS because CLEATUS does know what it needs to accomplish to finish this proposal. If you ask it, hey, what are the next steps for me to get closer to submission? CLEATUS is going to be able to tell you those things because it knows what you've done so far. The future is truly agentic when it comes to actually orchestrating work. Our workflows are going to be a massive improvement for your company's ability to perform actions and tasks. And this company has 21 active workflows that are all running as we speak. We can see some were triggered this morning and yesterday. And the idea here is that these workflows are going to represent business functions within your team or even team members themselves. Go, no go could be a workflow that you build that all the opportunities that CLEATUS recommends to you are automatically reviewed and those go, no go decisions are made. The right people are assigned. That's a great example of a workflow. A lot of what we're doing on the proposal side right now doesn't even need to be done manually anymore. You can actually create workflows that perform these initial drafts and then edits the drafts and whatnot. So this is a lot of what our teams are able to build in here with these workflows. And typically, as we work with one of your team members to understand and address what some of those pain points are for you, we'll learn them and help you build these workflows as well. So a lot of times that's a big portion of our engagement. we want to hear and speak with and work with every single one of you if we aren't already. So we always recommend schedule a one-on-one call with one of our team members through our calendar links as well as through our website. And we'd love to sit down, hash out what's the most valuable solution that we could create for you. Um, and absolutely, we'd certainly be willing to set up one-on-one meetings with ourselves or any of our team, our broader team as well. Again, you can do that all through our website. You want to head over to cleat.ai, just say start free trial. That'll take you to our different pricing plans, and you'll also be able to schedule time with our team directly from there. We do work very closely with our team members. You get a lot of support with us. You'll see this account. Lewis is this account's account executive. And so you do get an account exec on demand. You'll be able to schedule training calls for your team as well as work together to build solutions. But you do get 24/7 chat support. So if you have an emergency, our team is here to help. As always, these webinars are a great resource as well to help not only have group session Q&A, but also just to walk through some of these new features because there are constantly new features coming out. We do these every other Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we're always available and excited to again present what we are building, as well as potentially hop on those one-on-one calls to work together to build something new. Oh, great question here from Stephanie. She's asking if we have examples of good prompts in the prompt library. Absolutely. We're happy to provide example prompts as well. That can be a little bit better than that one, but can be useful for setting up really powerful workflows for your team. The same does go for workflows. So we do have a wide breadth of example prompts that can be useful. Typically, everybody does things differently. Every company's approach is different, and every process you run is going to be unique to you. So we actually work with you to build these prompts, build these workflows. But first, we need to understand what it is we're trying to solve, what the problem that we need. So that's when those one-on-one sessions, training sessions can be really helpful. But of course, we do have a lot of examples of things that have worked in the past, as well as our own knowledge base. Question there from Kristen. Absolutely. In terms of the dashboard is kind of where your team is typically going to start their day, understanding what tasks they have assigned to them, as well as what opportunities are currently in their pipeline. You can see a few different kind of Moodles here to describe what opportunities are in what phases. But I do want to highlight that beyond dashboards themselves, you have an agent that knows everything that's currently in your pipeline. So you can actually create custom dashboards just by simply asking our agent to do this. But of course, we're happy to jump on one-on-one training sessions to give you ideas of how we can build out specific prompts or really just highlight what some of the use cases are. Within the platform, you'll see lots of recommended prompts always, whether it's on like the page that you're on, or even in fields like this, you'll see lots of examples so that you can best leverage the tool. You could ask CLEATUS right now to create a competitive analysis that runs and tracks these potential competitors' prior awards, and then run that once every morning on Mondays. Like that's the kind of example of like those autonomous agents that you can build. It's not just for like solving a problem right now. You might want to build a process that runs forever in the background. That's what those workflows are going to be able to allow you to do. Great question here from Stephanie as well, asking if CLEATUS provides graphic design and layout support. So currently, we're very standardized with our approach to writing. We're very focused on content and compliance, but we are improving on certain elements of formatting as well as graphic and image creation. So there will be a few updates coming soon on that end. Some contracts or sorry, proposals do of course require certain figures and graphics to be generated. So there will be an update for that coming very soon, as well as the ability to create kind of more formatted proposals with things like letterheads on them to get your branding into the proposal. And yeah, I know we are coming up on time here, so absolutely want to make sure everybody's questions are answered. And we can hopefully get in any kind of last second questions here before we end this week's webinar. Yeah, Angel has a good question here. We can absolutely share some high-level success stories. If you do head to our website and you go under case studies, you can actually see quite a few case studies that we have here posted on our website. These are great resources for you to see how other clients have leveraged the platform, some of the benefits that they've received. So definitely, happy to dive into some of these specific examples and see if any of them might be relevant to your team as well. Below this, we do, of course, have shorter testimonials. These are pretty great because they're actually like stories that you can kind of see and walk through how we've worked with the teams, and hopefully end up on here yourselves one day because we love to highlight success stories. Again, whether it's helping you win your first contract or massively scaling your team and operations, there's a lot of different ways that CLEATUS can be leveraged, and ultimately whatever your specific goals are, we want to help meet them. We want to help achieve or maybe even exceed them. And as if they're GovCon related, I think we've probably done it before and can do it again. Alrighty. As we start winding down here, we'll leave a few more minutes for some additional questions. Again, feel free to hop off now if you're out of questions, and if you want to stick around, no problem at all. We'll be here a few more minutes. The recording to this will be posted on YouTube, so if you weren't able to make it today, or maybe a team member wasn't, more than happy to share that with them. We will be circulating an email out shortly with the link to that, and you will see it up on our YouTube account.
Also wanted to mention, yeah, I did link the case studies direct link and the YouTube channel link on the chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, so in the chat, you'll see those links. Appreciate you for posting those in there. Thank you. Oh, good question here from Stephanie. So we don't do just US contracting. We are connected to Canada sources as well. And we don't currently integrate with EU solicitation sources, but that is something we could add, as we could add more contracts. You do have the ability to manually upload an RFP. So you can take those documents, drop it into the system, and take advantage of all the other tools post capture as well. But we are, of course, expanding into additional sources in other international markets, such as the EU. We're constantly expanding our contract coverage. So just because it's not on there now, if you request it, we can typically move it up our kind of list of opportunities we're connecting to and typically connect to it quite quickly. All righty. Doesn't look like there's too many more questions coming in. So I just wanted to thank everyone. Oh, as I said that, we have an anonymous attendee here who is asking if we include local opportunities at state/county levels. The answer is yes. We do include all federal, state, local, agency, quasi, city, county, all of them. So Fed and SLED, education K through 12 as well. All those opportunities are going to be in our system, and everything applies, whether that's the proposal writing or the workflows. They're all data, and that data is in our platform. So what we want to do with that data, whether it's write a proposal or understand more elements, that is going to all be there. Lewis actually shared a really good link here as well for coverage. So you'll be able to see kind of our existing coverage by state as well if you're interested. So that link is super useful if contracts and data coverage is a really important um, pain point for you. Alrighty. So we'll go ahead and start wrapping up the presentation today. Again, really appreciate everybody's time. I hope you found this useful. If you're a new customer and considering whether to use us or not, or an existing customer and just found it useful to talking about the new features, we always appreciate your time. And we're looking forward to hopefully seeing you again in the next couple weeks as we continue to add more features, help more customers and solve more problems. So again, if you haven't already spoken with us, we always urge you to schedule a one-on-one with our team. And if you need anything at all, our team is here to assist. Alrighty, thank you everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. And again, we're here to assist. Let us know if you need anything. Take care, everyone.